The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
There's a girl, she's a star, she's got style, Steffi Star. You see her face around the town, she's popular, Steffi Star.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Weinstein.
And I'm Meredith Keach.
We're so starstruck today. Oh, but of course, we have to remind you, we have a top producing real estate team, 11 of us.
Yes.
Hashtag Weinstein Keach.
Yes.
It's like Bergdorf Goodman.
Yep.
We're just Weinstein Keach.
Perfect.
Not Weinstein Dash Keach, just Weinstein Keach.
No group, team,
No, nothing. Just Weinstein Keach.
flock.
We can help you with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And real estate. Well,
Yes. Yeah. Other than that. Well, also, we are good therapists, too. That's for another show. Oh my God. I can't even breathe right now. We have real stars on today.
Yeah.
Real life stars. Meredith and I are dying, and we can't believe this is really happening.
Stephanie even said she was coming early. And I was like, oh my God, that means like we are legit. Because usually we come in on two wheels because we don't want to talk because we want to be able to be fresh and
Right.
authentic.
Sure.
in here.
I was here at 11:30. I was nervous, and I've already gone to the bathroom twice. But I'm feeling better now. Feeling better. So, well, let's introduce our famous guests.
Yes.
And who do we have here today?
Well, I'm Mike Lemieux, part of the Full Circle Homes team and one of the co-hosts of HGTV's Houses with History.
Super cool. And
And I'm Jenny MacDonald, also co-owner of Full Circle Homes and partners with Mike Lemieux and part of Houses with History.
amazing.
Yeah.
So exciting.
And we cannot forget one more guest.
Yes. Oh, right. Wally.
Back for a reunion tour.
Back for a
How
reunion
is
tour.
everybody?
And Wally, we want to thank you so much for setting this up for us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wicked,
it's my
Yes.
pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, Wally.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
these guys are the best. I've known them for years.
And you said, and you know them through your motorcycle business.
Yeah, Mike and I have been doing business for the better part of 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Wally's kind of like the unofficial mayor all over the place.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Everybody knows him, and he knows everybody somehow.
It's so true. And anytime I have a question about anything, I'm like, I'll just text Wally. If you want a new watch, text Wally. He
Oh, yeah.
knows where to get one.
It's surprising what Wally knows,
It's
and
incredible.
if he doesn't, he knows somebody that
Oh,
does.
that
Exactly.
could be a whole show on its own. Well,
Yeah.
Wally knows.
Right.
That's
Right.
what
Well,
Wally
knows. Right. Can we stump Wally?
Yeah, maybe you can put in a word for me.
Exactly.
You could be in the pilot.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let's get started because we have so much to just delve into.
Right.
So how did you get started? So I know you grew up in Sandwich.
Sandwich. Yep.
Yep. You grew up in Sandwich.
Yeah.
And go ahead. You can go
Michael
from
will make it a very long
That's Sandwich, Massachusetts.
Sandwich,
For those who-
Massachusetts. Right.
Hello,
Which is
Bridget.
also known as
Well, how
Cape
did you get? I mean, Meredith and I are trying to get famous, so we want to find out how did this happen?
Well, it all started when I was born.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
Sorry,
And that
yeah,
was the
far
year
back.
19.
If we go way back, so Jen and I both grew up on Cape Cod. Sandwich, it's the oldest town on the Cape.
You guys are
But-
married, right?
Well, not
Oh, okay.
Not
married,
officially.
but
Oh, okay.
Well, we might as well be.
we might as well.
Well, that was like, did you see Tony out there? He's my
Yeah.
better half.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there you go.
Right. Same
The,
thing.
Yeah, no, we all kind of have
Yeah.
one, right?
Yep.
So but yeah, I mean, Jen and I met each other back. She was one of my sister's best friends in high school.
Okay.
And I always joke saying, I was, a 16-year-old boy. So like we went on one date and I thought it was going well. And obviously she didn't. So
Jenny's like, yeah, I'll pass.
Well, that's basically what happened. So it was, and it's funny. Jen's son actually said at one point, "So then, wait, who did you date next?" And she said, "Well, your father," which was fun. But it took us 20 years to reconnect.
I love that.
Yeah.
So cute.
And we reconnected in many ways around real estate.
And we
and
started
old
off
homes.
as really good friends. So
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
that's really important when you have a relationship
It's
to start off as
yes,
friends.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, but
Wow.
it was kind of funny because Jen and I were both with other people, and we were having a conversation one day, and I said, "Well, there's this old house in Kingston that I was always looking at," and she's like, "Well, I was looking at that exact same house."
Stop.
And she said, the person I was with didn't want to
Rehab.
didn't want to rehab it, didn't see the vision. I said,
just thought I was crazy.
It was kind of the same thing on my end.
Can't believe it.
And we're both like, oh man, that would have been kind of neat. So really, we started looking at houses together kind of just as we were starting to date, like thinking about investing in them.
Yeah, we both had, our own homes and rental properties or a property.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be fun to invest in more properties together. So
I
that's how we
love
started.
that.
Yeah.
So what's your background? So you're an interior decorator. You're not, are you a real estate agent too?
I am. I'm a realtor. I'm been a realtor longer than I've been an interior designer. We both actually started in the financial industry. I worked for Fidelity Investments for 22 years.
You're
kidding. Yeah. And so we both actually connected because we were working in the city together. And we were having lunch with each other. We didn't have partners at the time. We both had just come out of relationships, and we were just really talking about real estate and our day jobs and things like that, and dreams and goals and aspirations. And we just started looking at real estate together, and then it led from there.
And then you quit your financial jobs.
We did. So it was a side hustle for a long time.
It was a
we did not
major
quit
side hustle.
our day jobs right away. It did take a decade, almost.
Oh yeah.
Before we quit our day jobs.
Yeah.
But we really started investing in long-term rentals, and then we did also start flipping some houses. And really what happened was the antique home restoration business came out of our love of antiques. We had many side jobs. We were also selling antiques on the side too. So we were doing that, and we were investing in long-term rentals, and the multifamily market started to really go crazy. And then we saw a house that was for sale as land only, and it was an antique home, and we love antique homes, and we were like, why is this land only? And we decided, let's go for it, and we restored the house. One of the easiest restorations we've ever done.
What town was that in?
So this was in our hometown of Plimpton.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had done a few others before that in Kingston, but that was really the first antique home that we did.
The local historians must have loved you for saving that property.
Well, it was really kind of interesting in a way because I think, like anything, right? Nothing's ever brand new, right? It's all just how kind of time goes, and people are into either antique homes or history at one time or another, and then that fad passes. So we had kind of, just from an economic standpoint, and then just moving into this neighborhood, said, oh, well, this house is for sale. It's something we could potentially afford, and we didn't want to see it torn down and the property get clear cut. And it was on a 20-acre parcel at the time.
Oh,
and
and so we were like thinking it could have been a development that would have been put in there. And I mean, I know there is lack of housing, so we all need, every town needs more affordable housing, but in this case we just didn't want to see a big development go in there too.
And we had just moved into our own house, and we didn't really have any money, but of course I'm usually the instigator here, and I was just saying, Jen had just recently become a realtor, and we were doing it because, and I'm sure you ladies are really familiar, it takes a certain type of realtor to be forward thinking enough to be willing to even go into a lot of the properties that we're looking at. Sometimes they'll list them as land only, or they won't never have walked foot in the house, and that's what happened in this case. And And I said, we got to get in there. And we went and looked, and we just fell in love with the house. It turned out it was an old Sears and Roebuck kit home.
Wow.
Stop it.
That we later,
oh my God.
we later found under the original linoleum that was on the floor. We found the packing slip for it with the stamp and everything.
Yeah.
And it had been in the family since 1889.
The same family.
Same family.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we restored the
Crazy.
house, and then we cut that off with 4 acres. And the woman that owns it now has become a good friend of ours, and she built a little horse farm there. So it's a farm property again. And then we managed to preserve the rest of the acreage around it, which was awesome. And we kind of found this niche where, you know, we were really combining our passion of antique homes and real estate, and then saying, you know, could we make this into more of a livelihood? And what we started doing around that was doing what we called, you know, at least pre-pandemic, these town open houses, right? Because a lot of people would come up to us and they'd say, you know, oh, what are you doing to the house? Oh, can I see inside? Oh, I knew the family that used to live here. And we said, why don't we just formalize this? And we'll say, you know, hold your questions. We're going to let you see everything, and we'll walk you through the whole process. And we're going to do a town open house. We'll just open the doors and let everybody come in. Yeah. And we started doing that, and we'd let, you know, it was 50 people at first, and it was 100 people, and it was like 200 people. And then we started getting this following. And a lot of times we'd end up selling the house before it even hit the market.
Sure. So, wow. That's the point for me, that you made restoring historical homes profitable.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to do.
It's extremely tough.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you have to do in order to make a buck off of these old homes that everybody else says just tear down?
Well, you know, it's funny. It's for me, it kind of traced back to like how Wally and I met, right? I was one of the side hustles that I was always doing is I was flipping motorcycles, and now I was a factory trained Honda and Suzuki technician. And I took that as just a passion.
One of his side hustles.
I know, Mike. I can't keep track. I gotta start writing these down.
Well, I would literally, you know, while I was working my full time corporate job, I was working at a bank full time, and in a field called factoring, which nobody really knows anything about. But
clueless.
It
sounds boring.
It does sound boring.
But
and it can be.
exciting.
It's not. Basically, every consumer good, every piece of clothing you wear and everything is supported by what I used to do. And it's one of the oldest forms of finance that exists. Everything
sounds exciting.
It is. Right. See, there you go. But anyway, so you transition that to, you know, I'm doing another side hustle, and, you know, I was buying and selling motorcycles, which was just really an arbitrage game. And Wally knows this inside and out. You're buying stuff going into the winter time when it's cheaper, and then you're reselling it in the springtime, right?
Yeah.
But you have to know how to unlock the value. So you have to know what to buy it for and how much it's going to cost you to repair the whole thing.
And he would drive everywhere. I'd call him and go, like, where are you right now? Oh, I'm in northern Maine picking up 6 motorcycles.
Oh, great.
Like after work. This is what he would do after work.
Wow. Oh,
like,
my.
insane.
Yeah,
but it sounds
every
like
night.
this was the start, right, of fixing something,
completely.
tweaking it.
That's
right.
completely.
That's true.
You're a fixer,
That's-
and then you resell it.
That's exactly where it is, right? You're sitting there, you know, we'd be at work, or we'd have a lunch break or whatever, and Jen would kind of do the same thing. I'm looking at motorcycles, and we're looking at houses.
real estate.
Yeah.
Right.
And you start to do, so I took my financial background, right, what I call just used my underwriting criteria, and Jen would do the same thing, and we'd start assessing everything, and we're going, okay, it's in this town, this school district, it's this type of house, it's probably got these bones, this is what they're asking for, this is an estimate of what we think it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And then it really just comes down to building the expertise to do it, but then also, you know, just raising your risk tolerance so that you're patient enough to know, yeah, I got a plan for X number of dollars to go into it plus.
Yeah,
right?
your contingency.
Because there's all this stuff that you can never forecast.
Right.
No, right.
And that's the biggest thing. But if you can buy the property right, kind of get behind the story, and then figure out how to design it and restore it and set it back up so that the customer comes in, or the new client homeowner comes in and just instantly falls in love with it. You know, you're basically eliminating all the barriers to them purchasing that home.
So you're taking away the need to have vision.
Completely.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the because
Yeah.
everybody, maybe I'm wrong, but so many people love an antique, especially New Englanders.
They do.
But
They don't like all the problems that
the
comes
quirks and the
Yeah.
Right.
problems.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this doesn't fit. If you're a
Yes.
big human, they don't always fit you.
Right.
Or,
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes.
And we know when we're selling.
Right. Yeah.
The height. Just
Yeah.
No, cannot be over 5'5".
Yeah.
I mean, Meredith and I know when we're selling antiques, they're going to sit on the market longer.
Yeah.
That's
Typically.
just,
Yeah.
But
that's
not
just-
if it were.
But
I mean, I sold one recently, and my designer, I brought her in. She helps with staging.
Yeah.
And
did she stage it?
one
colonial?
Saturday night, I think after a couple glasses of wine,
Oh.
she started sending me pictures of what she's like, if I could only redo this house, this
Yeah.
is the vision I have
Right.
for it. And
Yeah.
that's what you guys create.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Well,
Right?
and it really, that's exactly, Meredith. It really became this thing where we'd go in and have the vision right away. And a lot of times, especially starting out, that was probably more me, because I would look at this thing that was just something that most people would burn down.
Right.
That, Jen would love too, but she'd look at it and say, oh my God, the amount of work that's going to go into this. And
Yeah.
and the more that we've done it, now the more she's been like, oh yeah. And then like,
got this.
I always said at first, I'd look at it and go, I'd see all the potential in the house. And then Jen makes it into the place you actually want to live in. Right.
Ah, got it.
And it is,
Yeah.
because what she's brought to the design table, 9 times out of 10, I'm going, I don't even know how you thought about, like, I can make the place
Right.
structurally sound.
Right.
I know how to make it kind of flow. I do like these big, weird, interesting lights or just furniture pieces, things. But then the way she brings it all together, and it's part of the way I think we're both a little bit of control freaks, right? Where we want to control the real estate. We do all the staging. We're the GC.
Well, that's how you make
the
it
design-
profitable, though,
every-
right? You got to
have
be controlling.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Especially
that
projects like that.
Cottontail house,
Ugh.
Oh, thank you.
jaw dropping.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you
we love that house.
still own it?
Oh, yes.
You
Yeah,
you never
we'll
sold
never
it.
sell that house.
No.
We'll never sell it.
So what does it just sit for people in the town to come through, or are you renting it?
Yeah,
or
so we just started renting it,
And
so it's
it is
available
stunning.
on
And
Airbnb
it's-
and VRBO and all that.
okay, and it's what town is it in?
It's in Sandwich.
Sandwich.
Yes.
Are you
Oh my
finding
God.
difficulties? So we have a client who's looking for investment property to Airbnb,
Mhm.
and in New Hampshire, and a lot of the towns up there are restricting Airbnbs and not allowing them.
Yeah, so it just depends on the town. I mean, you definitely want to look into your local restrictions. Like Hull doesn't allow for Airbnbs anymore.
Oh.
There are certain towns in Massachusetts that won't allow it, or like Cambridge. I believe you have to live in the house to short term rent it.
Got it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you're investing in property, you should look at all the
Right.
avenues,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like, how are you going to get out of this if you need to?
Yeah.
Selling it, and then also renting it if you need to rent it. I mean, I've rented my own primary home before because, I bought it in 2008. The market was,
Yeah.
I mean, I sold
Right.
something too. It's all funny money, right? But I bought it and it was, more expensive than it was in like 2013, and I wanted to move, so I rented it, So you always have to think about ways you can get out of it, and that's really where we started. Was our first property was in Everett. We targeted a multifamily, and we figured out, how much it would cash flow, and if we needed to sell this, could we? And so you really have to do all your numbers. I would never buy something just solely to buy it for a short-term rental.
Got it.
So when
that's
you
definitely a
rehabbed
risk.
the 3-family, what was the decor you put inside? Because this is Everett, and so you didn't. You kind of just
long-term rental.
Yeah.
I mean, very. You want to be able to have something nice for your renters and not be like I don't want to call it slumlord.
right, but you didn't
But you're not
decorate it
doing,
colonial
like-
style.
No,
Oh, no.
no. We have
Not
done
in
that
Everett.
since then. We do have
Right.
one in Plimpton that we did full colonial style.
So cool.
And we do rent that long-term rental as well. But yeah, the Everett, I mean, it was, the stainless steel appliances
right.
and have
Your typical
the
stuff in there.
conveniences,
Yeah.
a washer
Right.
dryer, make sure everything is functioning and
Right.
good. And the hardwood floors were refinished, and that there were, well, in that case, make sure there are no bed bugs. That was
Oh, God.
that was
Well-
our first learning experience.
Oh my
We got a house full of bed bugs.
How did you get rid of the bed bugs?
Torture.
was $9,800. 3 chemical treatments and
Wow.
2 heat treatments later.
Yeah.
Stop. Did they bake
yeah.
the house? Is
You,
that
you
they
have
did
to.
the
It's
house,
the only way
yeah.
to get rid of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually, this is where I learned about the bed bug sniffing dogs come through. They can,
What?
there's dogs that can smell the bed bugs, and
Stop.
which I thought was so
I will be
crazy.
treating
Yeah,
civil.
my buddy Vic is he was the first one to do that.
Of course,
Yeah,
Wally. Of
it
course,
works.
Wally
Of course.
knows
It
Well,
somebody
that makes sense.
with a bed smelling dog.
That makes perfect sense.
Ultrasound.
This is
See,
unbelievable.
Wally is the only person that when he says that, everybody would go, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
of
makes
course,
sense.
yeah. Right. Yeah, we're not surprised.
Well, the baking treatment is fascinating. I didn't know they did it for bugs. I know that they did it for I don't even know who they is, but it's done for mold.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I don't know if
I've
it's
never used
continued
that treatment.
application now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
is
guess
it similar to
spiders-
what they do for termites?
Well, no,
No.
I guess
No.
bed bugs don't like heat, so that's the thing. Is like they're not in.
They're
Maybe
basically
they're in Arizona. I don't know, but
they're basically
I don't think they're in-
indestructible unless
Yeah.
you can cook them.
unless
like a
you-
roach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
cockroaches are much easier to get rid of. We're familiar with
Much
that one.
easier to get rid of. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
But it is. It's,
And so are carpenter ants, by the way. Bed bugs are the worst. We had the house that was the what did we call it?
well, my
The
mother,
sawdust
my
house.
mother, I think affectionately started calling it the sawdust house. I was calling it the Swiss cheese house. We have so a lot of the houses we do that are first period, they're big post and beam houses, and they're usually 8 to 10 inch corner posts.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen has a picture that she took. I was outside the house. And you can see all the way through, and it looks just like this honeycomb
No.
And his
of
head could
holes.
fit through the hole
Yeah,
in the beam.
and that was supposed to be the structural beam holding up the house.
Oh.
And we had the pest company come by, and the guy calls me up from the pest company, and he's like laughing. And he goes, Mike, what do you, it's Mike from the pest company. What do you want me to do with this house? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if it isn't number 1, it's top 5 of the worst houses I have ever seen. So
Wow.
I start laughing, and I was like, do I get a trophy or something? He's
Right.
like, well, I'm glad you're in a good mood. And I said, no, you can fix it, right? And he's like, yeah, well, I could tent the house for $40,000. And I was like, okay, so we're not doing that. But I said, if you point at a beam, if you tell me something's bad, we're going to take it out and put a brand new one in. We'll open up every wall. He's like, oh, in that case, I can do a basic treatment for like $5,500, and I'll put the cones in the ground, and so we can get them outside, and we should be good. I said, great, do it. But that's part of one of the things where you have to just kind of know what you're getting into.
Right.
And we made an offer on this house knowing that there was a ton of unknowns,
Yeah.
and that we were going to have to peel away every single layer until
Right.
we got back to where it was solid.
But you
Yeah.
love that.
Oh, yeah.
Learned a ton from every house.
Yeah.
What I think is funny about that story is he made that same Mike call me instead of him calling me. Like Mike Lemieux did not call me. The termite guy called me and then laughed. Your husband told me to call you. Like, why?
I was like, yeah, tell her what you just told me.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I was pretty
laughing.
proud
I
of
didn't
it.
think it was funny. But I mean, our threshold is increased with every house that
Oh,
we
yeah.
do. It's
Yeah.
like now, I mean, there's nothing that rattles me, but at first he's right, like water, bug damage, things like that that are
Right.
pretty common. We're like, wow, okay, this is a lot, you know. You see
We
How did
see
you
it
find
so
that?
often now, but
Well, so that's
various different ways.
there's a bunch of different ways, right? And,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you ladies are familiar with most of them. But so most of them we would self-finance up front, and it's why we had to buy them as inexpensively as we could, because you would think about, you know, a house like this one we were just describing that was the Swiss cheese house. I think we paid $145,000 for that.
So for those who are listening, self-finance means you pull an equity or you pay cash.
Yes,
Exactly.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, and this one was actually really tricky because you learn how to just try to move as quickly as you can in the real estate game. Because what we always say, especially when it comes to the antique homes, is don't fall in love with it until you get it for the right price,
Mm.
right? So if you get it for the right price, then you can totally fall in love with the thing because you've done your underwriting ahead of time. You've laid out whatever you're going to do economically for it. You have your exit strategies. Now you can put some passion into it. If you can't get it for the right price, then just walk away. There'll always be another one. But we had the Swiss Cheese house. We made an offer, cash offer, I think $145,000. We didn't have the cash at the time, but
Oh, you're one of those.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
hoped. You hoped.
Yeah,
This
all
was-
realtors love that.
I know.
Can we see proof of funds? No,
No. Well,
not today.
We
Insert cricket sound.
that's exactly. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
We had the funds, right, but they were locked up. So we were able to show proof of funds.
Yeah,
but
did
we
show
also
proof of
had the
funds.
financing going in the interim ahead of time. And the financing for the loan closed in the morning at like 10 o'clock, and the closing for the property was at like 2.
This is you guys.
And like, yeah, we're like, okay. We're like, no problem. No problem.
Fine. 2
Done.
o'clock?
Done.
something
Don't worry
under.
about it. Well, because we had another flip. We had another renovation going on at the time that we needed the existing funds. We had to finish that one. So we lined up a construction loan ahead of time and built a relationship with a lender so we could do that. And that closed the exact same day as we had to buy the house. So then we were just off to the races there because, we had 12 months under the construction loan to get that done.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like Jen was saying, we used a variety. So we've used home equity loans. We've used our own cash. It's part of the reason we kept our own corporate jobs going at first is we just kept shoveling everything we made into real estate.
The first multifamily that we ever bought together, I mean, it was only what,
285.
285. That's right. Yeah. 285. So 28,000 on my end. We both split it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 28,000 on my end. I was a single parent, 2 kids. And I didn't have much at the time.
It could have been $1 million.
Right.
It made a difference.
Right.
So I borrowed off my 401k. So
right.
you can borrow up to $50,000. You can buy another house with it. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's what I did. And it cash flowed more than the interest I was going to pay myself back. So why not?
Brilliant
that
move.
was
Yeah.
first move for me. And then from there, it did take some time for us to build up cash and get things
To become a cash buyer.
To become a cash buyer. That took many years. And then when we were filming, we had 6 houses at once, all our own
That was
cash
fun.
tied up.
Wow.
Like talk about like
You're
he is
kidding.
extremely patient and is always like pretty even keel and like everything's fine.
He wasn't flipping out with the
Like,
6 houses.
Thank God, because
That's amazing. Because you
It turned,
were
like,
waking up at night,
imploding.
right? You were
Yeah.
sweating, tossing
yeah,
and
it's like
turning.
the market
Grinding your teeth.
Oh, my God.
Turn, and actually it just some of it is just pure luck, like the way the market with filming a show and trying to flip a house while filming is very, very difficult.
So how did you get this gig with HGTV?
Yeah. No,
Wally, was this your doing?
I had nothing to do with this one.
now that's actually surprising. So I had always wanted to be an actor anyway. That was like one of my first callings, which I've studied for years, and I've done a bunch of improv, sketch, and everything. And it's kind of, so we have a little horse farm where we at and where we were at, and was kind of Jen's dream. So then we were both like saying, oh, what else could we do?
One of her other side jobs.
Yeah. And we were both just going around and like we'd film each other when we were doing the housework and the renovations and all that. And Jen's much better at posting stuff on social media than I am. I'm lucky I can even use my phone. And so, the more she started posting, we started getting some notice from different people. And then at one point we had actually...
Well, South Shore Magazine had done, you had written to them, and they did do an article, which did bring in more articles, which made people look at the social media. So it was a little bit of both of us.
Yeah. And then we got cast for a home renovation show once, and they picked us, and then the show got canceled. And we were like, and then we had seen, I think at another time, they had put out a casting for a different show that was going to come around, and we were like, oh, whatever. And we like sent them an email or something, and then they said, well, you're out of our area, but we'll come down, and we just want to see what you guys do. And we're like, great. So this guy shows up and he starts walking through a bunch of our houses, and we're showing him like 4 different projects we're doing at the time. One was an old schoolhouse. One's this big, hip roof colonial that's now our offices and a rental property. And he's like, oh my God, this house is so awesome. He's like, you guys shouldn't have your own show. And we're looking at him. We're like, well, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm not really supposed to tell you, but he's like, well, I was in this band. And then Rich, our carpenter, looks over and is like, wait a minute.
It was Jonas.
John Knight. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, what? It's NKOTB. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that John Knight. And he's like, yeah,
Knight.
I didn't realize. Yeah.
I'm thinking Jonas.
No. And so John was just casting for his show on the North Shore, Farmhouse Fixer. And so
and we had a couple producers, producer from the spinoff of Flip or Flop had approached us, and then there was they were coming in through Instagram. There was a couple others that had approached us, and then we were talking to John Knight.
It was like producer. It was like everybody.
Stop throwing names around.
I know.
It's funny because he was there and he was like, "I'm going to visit." What did he say? Something about I'm going to visit my friend Mark, who's in Plymouth, and I'm like, "Do you mean like Mark Wahlberg?"
Come on.
Mark Wahlberg. I was like, what is going on?
This is unbelievable.
So he was totally named.
Oh my God.
Well, but it was just funny though, because it's like everybody was kind of on this, it seemed like was on this old house kick.
Yes.
All of a sudden.
And so Jenna and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, so wait, what we've always done is kind of cool now. So like people.
Well, we were selling at the vintage market. I remember the first time we would go to the vintage bazaar on the North Shore and sell our antiques, and we were there, and someone said, "Oh my God, have you ever seen this show that's filmed in Texas? You guys, your aesthetic looks just like their aesthetic." And they kept saying it all day. And I was like, I got to check this show out. And it turns out that was Fixer Upper.
Right.
So that was just starting when we were, starting our real estate business in antiques. And that really has, I think, spiraled a lot of these other shows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
And we just happen to have the same exact producers as Fixer Upper now. So, of course, we were excited to work with them because of their experience.
So can you walk us through a day of filming? Like, is it an all-day thing from 8 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night?
No, it starts earlier than that. So
what?
Not our early birds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm not sure I'd be
I'm
able to do
usually
that
late, but
typically it's by their contracts, a film day can go up to 12 hours, right? So that's what they set you up for. Our call time's usually at about 7.
Yeah. Do you get hair and makeup?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You're on your own?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you always look stunning.
Oh, thanks.
Perfect.
I had a lot of comments season 1, like, your hair is kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, I was up at 6:30. I don't care.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. I love it.
It's like I didn't get any sleep and I'm on set. What do you think?
What do you want from me?
I'm awake.
But that's what we're usually like, trying to make sure everybody's awake, everybody checks in, and and then we're either waiting for an airplane to be quiet so then we start filming and we figure out, usually the call sheet goes out the night before and you're going, what scenes am I filming, right? So what we'll have, like Jen said, season 1 we're doing 6 houses at once.
We had no idea what we were getting into at
all. And this was the surprise, because
we had no pilot.
We didn't do a pilot.
No.
And when they're asking us about how many houses can you do, right? We're sitting there going, okay, it's an antique home, right? Typically we would do an antique home, and you guys full well know, living in New England, to restore an antique home takes time. Mm-hmm. So they're like, could you do that in
weather?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're saying, could you do that in 21 weeks? And we're like, probably, because it would normally take us, it would take us like 6 months, right? Typically. So then they're like, well, could you do this one in 18 weeks? And I'm like, maybe. And I'm going, okay. And I'm thinking separately, right? Each house. And then, so we cast 6 houses and they said, great. So you said you could do this house in 21 and that in 18. We're going to do them all simultaneously.
Wow. Here we go.
And I was like, I'm like, wait, it's not what, huh? I'm like, I could do one in 21 weeks, and then I could do the next one. And they're like, no, you have to do it because the whole production cycle's like 26 weeks in total.
Yeah.
Right?
And then COVID hit too.
Oh, well, that was a whole other ball of wax.
God.
But so it was, you're getting up and you're on, on site at 7 a.m. And then when we're done filming, usually at 6 or 7 at night, then the workday starts.
Oh, right.
Because you get taken out of
doing
when you're the GC and the designer and the realtor, you're taken out of the field.
So how many days in a row would you film?
Well, this season it was much more for me. Season 1, I would say I was like 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and you're both. I think you're 5 both
usually.
Seasons.
Yeah.
He's filmed.
So that's
the
a
most.
lot away from work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then Rich, of course, our carpenter,
Rich
one
Soares,
of our
Yep.
staff members. That he's employee number 1 of Full Circle Homes. We haven't talked about that yet, and he was restoring houses in Kingston before Plimpton with us, and so he's been with us for forever. So taking a skilled worker like that out and filming them also is it hurts us.
It's very
we
tricky.
Can't keep up.
Yeah.
So we did end up hiring more employees, and we built up to 12, 13 employees right now. So season 2 we did have the 13 or 14 employees, and in our regular subs that we use, but then we did try to supplement some more staff as well, because we were doing 8. Pretty much it's like 4 blocks of 4 would start, and then 4 would start a few weeks later, and then at some point we were working on all 8 at once. So it's a little tricky.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And in the first season, like I was doing all the ordering myself and keeping track of like 55 lights and
oh my god, I would have been in fetal position in my bed.
And we launched our store, Mayflower Mercantile, which is an antique and local goods store, which was filmed a lot in season 1, season 2 too. But we launched that right as we started filming. So, and we were the employees of that store, and no one else. Yeah. So we've staffed up there too, so people don't go insane. But yeah, it was a little. So bit
these are
crazy
long hour days. 12 hours.
Well, like a 12-hour day is a short day.
Got it.
Usually, I think when we were filming and doing construction, I'd average somewhere between 80 to 100 hours a week.
Wow.
But we've definitely gotten a lot better. We have a lot.
It was like 65 hours a week season
now.
2.
Well,
it's pretty much for anybody, right?
Better.
Building a growing business. Those first hours until you hit that point where you say, okay, I'm up and running now. I need to bring in some more help.
Right.
Exactly.
It's the plight of the small business owner, right?
The time.
Until you hit that threshold and get over it, and then you can move forward.
But it's all just part of rolling with. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a huge opportunity for all of us to get, and we feel really lucky and fortunate to have it. So the kind of the stress of it is, I always say, like, well, what else would we be doing, right? And and then when it comes to an old house, I always say, I can't bring somebody back from the dead, but I can fix an old house. So like, it's not rocket science, right?
I mean, it's so cool. I feel like it's something I could binge watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And now I know about the Christian doors.
Yeah.
Right? So I was taking my walk today. It's the doors and they have a cross, right?
Yeah.
And then the 1/4 colonial, or is it 3/4 colonial?
Yeah, well, so there's the 3/4. I mean, you get the half colonial, the 3/4 colonial, the full colonial, right? Which was the Deacon Eldred house, is the 3/4. Right. But you find all of these neat, for me, that's what gets me really kind of excited about it. You find all these neat housing styles that tell about where we came from as a country and as a people.
Yeah.
And then when you communicate that to people and they can actually learn about it, then they look around their own house they feel more attached to the house, to their lineage, to their community.
Yep.
And that, to me, just makes everything stronger. And I think at its core, that's why we like restoring antique homes, is because, we always said we take the old house problems out of the old house, right? Well, if you do that, then you can really enjoy it. Yeah. And you do that with modern stuff like technology, plumbing, electrics, and everything. So you can take the best of both worlds, what works well today and what worked well way back in the day, combine them together and show people a path forward. and then how to preserve things. And then that goes into not being wasteful, not creating trash, how to reuse and recycle things. And then you learn how thrifty all of our heritage was and how much any of our ancestors had to scratch out a living. And then you feel more tied and more valued, and now you feel part of it rather than just, it's something that you live on top of. It's something that you're a vital piece of. And I think that's why we love it so much.
Oh yeah. And even the show too, such a risk for HGTV to do this sort of show. We had no idea going into season 1 what it would look like, and nor did the production team. They sold them on this concept, but we didn't know, there was going to be cartoon characters and all these other things in the show. It's definitely totally something out of the norm for HGTV to even do. So we're, to even have 2 seasons, we feel really, really, really lucky, because it's a rare moment, and not a lot of shows even make it past season 1 or a pilot.
Well, clearly the magic is the 2 of you, because, and I say that because you can look, I have credentials similar to yours, but I don't have him. right. That you need that. That's the magic, right? That the 2 of you
it's
bring
totally
together. It is so different,
Yeah.
and it's the winning combination. I mean, we, obviously we're in houses every day, and the antiques are just so amazing for everything that you talked about. And the beauty there is you're not going to buy an antique unless you love an antique. Right. So it's when we market a property, we're kind of doing this. I put out all the stuff about, from the Mass Historical.
Oh, sure.
This is the history of the property. Talk to people as they come in. And if they're just listening with deaf ears, I know that they're not our buyer.
Right.
Oh, yeah. They
You're
come in
kinda
and they go oh, these stairs are too narrow.
Yes.
Right.
It's 300 years old.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know.
And it really depends on how you market. So I'll market mine as new roof.
Yeah.
And notice I'm talking about, all the historical stuff. I'm pushing that aside. Right? And that's
Because at the
why
end of the day, they're not
so
going to
funny.
buy it if they don't have some affinity for
That's
an
right.
old
That's it.
home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Couple of questions.
Sure.
What's the oldest item you've ever found in
Oh.
a house?
Ooh.
Now, I saw on the Cottontail episode, or maybe it was the first episode, where you found the level.
Yes. Yep.
And that was 200 years old, maybe.
Yeah,
you
that
said?
was actually that was 120. I think
that's
that
all.
one was. Yeah, the
Whatever.
But right, I know, and it still worked. Well, it should.
I think the oldest thing was in Wareham Street in Middleborough. We have what they think is a Native American tool.
Oh.
That was the
a hammerhead.
The Native Americans were right there, and the Namaskets were right there on the waterfront. And there was a lot. There was actually one piece they took out of there, and it's in the Smithsonian.
Oh yeah, there was a rock in the backyard that had all these glyphs on it that were carved into it, and it did. I think it's in either the Museum of American History or
somewhere.
Yeah.
But we have a rock that's got a band through the middle of it. Must have been used as some kind of grinding tool or something. We have no idea really how old it is or what exactly it is.
Middleborough has some great properties.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Middleborough's been a great town to work in. We
I
have
bet.
an upcoming project that we're going to be working
we're
on in there that we're
excited
pretty
about it.
excited about. And it's been fun. I mean, we've found coins, we've found pieces of clothing, we've found shoes. There's all kinds of things that you find. Actually in season 2, we found a salt cellar, which was a pewter salt cellar that just fell out of the wall.
Really?
And we're looking at it what the heck is this thing? And you just never know, but you have to take your time.
So is that why you started selling antiques?
We started selling antiques because we're addicted to buying antiques, and you can only fit so many in your house when you're addicted to buying.
Right.
So you need a way to offload some.
Got it.
I think the antiques, it comes from both of our I grew up with the house you see in season 2, episode 8, the Peter Cottontail house. I grew up pretty much in that house. My mother and my grandmother worked there, and my mother was super into history and dragged me to every historic house. I don't know, pretty much the entire country. She's really into the Civil War and all this anyway. And Mike's father was a carpenter and worked on heritage. And so we both have, this affinity to antiques in general. And I do remember the first time Mike said to, he's into reselling things, like he said, for motorcycles. And we were in Maine, and we loved going into all the antique stores there. And he picked up a blueberry scoop, and he said, I bet you could resell this for twice this price. And so
was that a challenge?
Created an Etsy account.
Challenge is
I was like,
Jen is really competitive.
And that's how it started. It was more of a competition because he had like an antique flashlight.
No, that was in Pennsylvania. We're in Pennsylvania. We both picked something, and we're like, we put it on the trunk of the car and took pictures, and we're like, let's see who sells that.
Oh my God, I love that.
At antique markets, he would keep a tally like, okay, you just sold $200 worth of antiques, and I only sold 100. Who owes who dinner? Whatever.
That is fantastic. I love that.
So did you sell the blueberry scoop for a double?
I still have it. I didn't.
I have a feeling you buy things and you fall in love with them, and then you can't part with them. Yes.
Well, that's the other thing. It's kind of like, Stephanie, you had asked earlier, like the Deacon Eldred house in Sandwich, if we still had it, right?
Yeah.
So we said we kind of have to figure out what the economic model is, because it'd be super easy if you had all the money in the world, which we don't, to just collect everything, right?
Yeah.
So we said, with one of our first houses that we kept, that we restored,
didn't sell or
right, as an antique home,
rents out as
the Black Walnut house in Plimpton, which it turns out we had no idea. Jen's family, like 10 generations back, had actually built that house.
What?
It was a carriage house.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Weird.
But we said, we're going through it. So it was a foreclosure auction. I was like on my lunch break at work, and I shot down there, and it's me and 4 contractors in the bank. And then I'm bidding in like $100 increments, and I'm texting Jen, and she's at work at the time. And I'm like, all right, how's 262? And she's like, that's pretty good. And I'm like, great, because it's ours.
Wow.
And so we're like, okay, now what do we do with this?
Right.
And we made a plan to do it in 4 stages, which just went right out the window, and we did them all at once. So then what I said to her is, I'm like, we'll rent it. We'll do like house concerts.
She's like, you're crazy.
Right. And we ended up doing exactly that. So we started doing short-term rentals, weddings, house concerts, like all kinds of different stuff.
House concerts? What do you mean?
So there's a studio room. This used to be owned by an artist at one point, and it's this big room above the garage that's all windows all the way around. And you can kind of, in the warmer months, you put the screens in, and it just becomes this nice.
Even in the winter, we've had some in the winter too.
This nice, intimate little venue.
Yeah.
And we
David
invite
Wax Museum and
musicians.
Other musicians played in there.
So we'd host house concerts.
Yeah.
And just, do like a potluck and everything.
It was fun.
It's like a coffee house.
It's totally, why not?
Wow.
Right. And so anything.
Fun. We haven't done one in a while.
We haven't, just because the pandemic happened. But anything to kind of get the buzz going around the house, and that pays the mortgage and the taxes and everything else. So like the need to even resell our antiques or anything it's really just creating a model to be able to do more of it. Because if it pays for itself, then and then it makes a profit, then you can do more. So you create a machine that enables you to do more of the thing you love, and then you can just keep doing more of it. And then you can teach people about it, and you can show people how to do it, and you can sell stuff. And we're all just custodians of all this stuff, and this is our chance to be a custodian. So then you want to find the next person that's going to be the next custodian, right? And it's all just for the amount of time you get to own it. And, it was the same thing when I was doing motorcycles or anything else. It's like you ride it, you get to experience it, and then you sell it to somebody else.
On.
Yeah.
Okay, so my second question is, have you ever found a corpse?
What? Wait, a human corpse?
A cat corpse.
A human corpse. So now when I show antique homes, this is me with my buyers. Okay, you guys go downstairs in the basement first.
Oh.
And then let me know if it's safe. But that's just me. Meredith bombs right down there.
Oh,
She loves it.
I did too.
I'm here the better.
Right. I fell through the stairs once, and I should have had someone check first.
I usually put it on social media first, though, a picture of the stairs going down, and ask people, should I go or should I not?
Right.
Oh, yeah. I send those buyers down first. You guys go ahead.
That's so funny.
So no corpse? No human corpse?
No human corpse, but we did find a mummified cat, which we still have.
Actually. affectionately called Harry there for a while, or Fluffy.
Taxidermy or no?
That's a show for another time, folks.
Tried out.
Well, so here's the funny thing about that. As weird as it sounds, so like anything, you find something like that, we start doing some research on it. Well, that is like lore that came over from England, where people said if you put a mummified cat or a mummified animal under your floorboards, it would ward off evil spirits. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
And this house was built.
I mean,
This house was built in 1730, and we're looking at this and we're going, wow, that thing is like perfect. And so there's all kinds of people that actually collect these and buy them.
that's
and
incredible.
What? People collect
It's absolutely
the mummified cats?
It's so insane.
I did not research this, but Rich and Mike did. Rich came back with this whole thing about like we should sell
This is the first I've heard.
Meredith, there's so many business opportunities for us. We need to have a meeting after this podcast.
It's so crazy.
That is
But
unbelievable.
it was funny because the cat, when we were working on that house, we were filming and the camera crew did not want to film the cat. But
There's a cat like this?
The cat, yes. And the cat was sort
Well,
of
I was
like,
laying down.
it was sort of with his mouth open and
It
everyone would
was?
stick something in its mouth like a Dorito or cheese puff or like it was the entertainment while we were in that house. That house was really bad.
That
so
house
we
was
needed
in
something to laugh
really
at.
bad shape. Yeah. Yep.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you were a past life that connects you to this era?
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
Like you must have that because this is a drive that comes from places we don't always know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it is. It's you kind of. I think at some point you just kind of accept who you are in a way, and you go like, "Well, I'm just going to do this and see what happens,"
Yeah.
and then you just keep figuring it out as you go. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
I think for me, like I've had weird. I mean, this sounds like I'm a crazy person,
No,
but I've had weird dreams
Mhm.
about things, and then they happen.
Love it.
And that house, the Black Walnut house, I dreamt about it before we even ever went there. We were standing there inside the kitchen, and I was like, we have to buy this house. And that was a year before it went up for auction. We were in there, we did bid on
Well,
the house. when
we
it was for
tried to
sale.
buy it and we couldn't.
Yeah.
They didn't
So it was
take our
like
offer.
Something that just kept calling me back to that house,
Mhm.
which was it really kind of eerie now when I think about it because it was relatives that built
But
the house, and I have
from
no
my-
idea.
Oh my
Really
God.
strange.
But from
That
my
is-
profession, it's not odd because we see
Yeah.
things how
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but
Mhm.
they unfold for people.
Yes.
And so I've come to a point in my career where I say, your house is waiting for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly if that's how it works,
Yeah.
personifying this house,
Mhm.
but there are definitely powers that be
Yes.
for so many people that their house was waiting for them. And despite all the effort of doing something different, and then all the pieces, suddenly it's like seeing all the chips just fall into place. And
Right.
it's
That's right.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. And that house too, that house has been in magazines and new paper articles. And that really was, I think, what attracted the network or the production company to us was that house, the work we did there. We did a lot of other antique homes that, were pretty, but that house really is a different aesthetic. I mean, we put it has the oldest black walnut tree in the front yard, and we put black walnut inside, and we, did a really interesting thing when we vaulted and did some rebar and beams, and we went a little bit crazy there. We were going to only do that in one phase.
No,
at a time,
we
but
wanted it to
so-
be kind of like a show place, right?
Right,
And,
yeah.
and it was ours, and we said, let's make this how we would want it if we're
Right.
going to live in it.
Right. And that was, I remember standing in the attic there, and Rich said, he was also working another job and working for us on the side. And he said, I'm going to quit my other job and work for you guys. So it really just launched so many different things. Like had we not bought that house, we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now.
And this always comes back to, I always say this to people, if you have a passion for something, go for it because you're going to
Yep.
make money. You're going to find a way to
Yep.
make money.
So
Yep.
true.
And that's why I always say, college isn't for everybody,
Yep.
No.
right?
True.
Because if you have a passion for something, just go for it.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's exactly what you two did. And
Mhm.
now look at you.
Yeah.
Stars.
but to the point about the show, right? yes, there's some element of luck in life, right?
Sure.
But had you not said, gee, I've always wanted to do this, and you just put the ball in motion, and here it materializes. It's really magnificent.
I think that's the thing with anything is you just have to, like people always say, oh, this person was a 10-year overnight success, right? Or something, because nobody ever sees all the work that you put in.
Right.
And we keep both saying, it's like, well, it took us 40, right? And it's like, you just have to have your eyes on where you want to end up. And I've always said, like, I have a loose outline, and like wherever I end up within that, I'm fine, right? But if you're a curious person too, and you just keep asking and talking and listening, and then kind of you start to learn all this stuff.
And not afraid of those 15-hour days.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're doing what you love, so it's not going to work.
That's right. You want to ask that other question. You want to have that one more cup of coffee. You want to have another beer. You want to like sit and talk to one more person because you want to keep learning. And you're like, and then you want to go to bed and wake up and keep that conversation going the next day. And that's what I think the houses do for us too, because like we've had people come from all over the world and all over the country, and then they'll come to our store in Plimpton, Mayflower Mercantile, and they'll tell us what their experience was or what they got from watching the show or something. And I said to Jen a long time ago, my favorite thing when I was doing a lot of stage acting was to just go out afterwards, and then I just watch the audience once the curtain goes down. And then when you get the opportunity to just come out and talk to people, and you just sit there and you listen, and you just say, really, what did you get? And you hear what their piece was in this. They were the audience, they were watching it, but then they can tell you their story. And it just kind of opens this big door that allows everybody the comfort to be able to share who they are and why it's meaningful to them. And the more we do of that, it's like people are just like, blah, 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 blah. And that's so much fun, because to create a medium where you allow people to just be themselves and express what they feel is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we and so we host a fair in the spring and the fall. It's actually this weekend. The similar to like when we sold at the Vintage Bazaar and other shows, we launched our own. So Mayflower Market Days is this weekend, and we see like hundreds, thousands of people come down, and they bring pictures of their house or their antique or whatever it is, and they have this whole story about their ancestry, and it's just so cool. It's such a cool experience.
Yeah, and we host that on the hayfields of this historic 320-year-old farm we bought as part of season 1. So it's a nice people to actually get to experience what they saw on TV.
Yeah. Guess where our next field trip is? Plimpton, we're coming to the store.
Well, people must bring properties to you now too. Do they?
They do. Yeah. They message us in so many different avenues: social media, on our Instagram page, or Facebook, or
save this house.
Yes,
and we're always looking, so it's helpful.
Yeah, I bet. Yep. Yeah, because you probably get some off-market opportunities too.
For sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have had opportunity. I mean, even in season 2, our Wareham Street Middleborough house that was connected to season 1 Crescent Street house, we bought that off market because of the connection with the first house. So it always spirals, into something else and another opportunity. So
incredible.
Yeah.
So speaking of seasons, is there going to be a season 3?
we're still waiting to hear. So the network's working on things now, and there's either potentially another season of this show coming or other things that we have in the works. So we are not finished yet by a long shot.
If you need Meredith and I to make a guest appearance on one of your shows, we're very happy to do it. We will put in the 14-hour day. It's fine.
And for sure, we're going to take a field trip to Mayflower Mercantile.
Yes, can't
that'd
wait.
be awesome. We'd love to have you.
Oh my God, I can't believe an hour's up.
I know.
This was so amazing.
Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having us.
What an honor.
Thank you.
And and I never was a huge antique lover. Mm-hmm. And after watching some episodes of the shows and talking to you two, I am
enamored.
We converted you.
Yes, I am a convert. A convert.
Yeah, the history of it is incredible.
Incredible.
There's an antique out there for all of us.
Yes.
That's right.
Let's go find it, folks. Well, we have to sign off, but thanks again so much.
Thanks, Wally.
Mike and Jen and Wally, thanks for putting this together. We love you, Walla Ford.
You got it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.